Yeah. I just did a YouTube thumbnail that has the expression face, and there's some LED colored lighting. But don't worry, folks, I'm not going all influence on you. I just thought this was a fun chance to do that for the laughs. Today, wanted to ponder and pontificate with you all, thanks to one of our patrons. If you are not one of our patrons and you are an intellectual, smart, mature type, you would probably appreciate the GBGuns patrons. Good crew of folks. In fact, let's take a moment to thank them. In the chat that we have going over on Patreon, got a message. We kind of have this live thread going that people just throw stuff into, and sometimes I need to reply, sometimes I don't, sometimes it's just the thought. But member ERB2 threw up a pretty good one. I'll read it to you. In the 13 or so years I've been seriously interested in firearms, there have been a flood of new must-have features that have become part of the modern pistol design. Some are taken from the tactical world, others from competition. Some turned out to be fads, while others have become essential features on any new pistol. Off the top of my head, in no particular order, and he goes pretty good. Front slide long day. Front slide serrations. That's true. I remember when that became a thing and suddenly everyone had it, needed to have it. Accessory rails, memory pads or gas pedal on a frame, increased grip texture, truck tire slide serrations, red dot ready with plates, red dot ready without plates, suppressor ready barrels, raised sights for red dots / suppressors, rear sight shaped for racking one-handed, double stack micro 9s, blacked out rear sights, extended high capacity magazines, compensated barrels and slides, metal frames for polymer pistols, chassis systems with interchangeable frames and barrels. So my question to you is, what's next? And the conversation goes on. I won't continue in there, but he brings up a great point. I've been doing YouTube for 9 years at this point, and I want to say it's probably around 11 years or so that I've been into guns. And I too have watched some of these trends come and go. Some of them become a mandatory, that people will look at a gun and say that's outdated and not be able to put their finger on it, even though a Browning tilting barrel, striker fired gun's been around for a long time. Hammer fired even longer than that. Polymer frame guns have been around for a long time. And even the chassis thing. SIG wasn't the first one to do it. They were just the first ones to really capitalize on it. And we've seen plenty of companies come out with chassis guns and then not support it at all, and it becomes a chassis of none. Steyr, Springfield, I'm looking at you guys. But the question that ERB2 had that I want to ask you guys is, what do you think is next? Now, you may or may not have an idea of that, but chew on it for a minute and go ahead and start typing it as it comes to you. What I think might happen is we might see a return of lasers. I say that because I think lasers were marketed poorly in the beginning, and that led to them not being respected for what they can do. I say that because it was this little guy, Diamondback DB380, little tiny skinny thing, that I get a finger on the laser switch and a finger on the gun, and that's about it. With little tiny sights, it's meant to be a pocket gun. Kind of difficult to shoot anything other than bad breath distance, which is kind of what this gun's made for. But I had an opportunity back then to work with Crimson Trace, and they sent me a laser for it, so I started playing with lasers. What I found was, like any tool or any change in sighting system, as many irons guys are feeling when they try out a red dot, or the younger red dot only guys when they're handed a gun with irons and suddenly they struggle again, is you've got to learn the equipment. And what I found really useful with a laser is that you do not have to be behind the gun to aim the gun. I did a video on that years back. It was when I think Maddie was fairly new to the channel back then. I'll dig it up and try to make a card for it if I can find it. YouTube might have deleted it, who knows. But what we discovered while we were out playing with it was, with this little gun, we could make hits on a small piece of steel from 25 yards from behind cover. And that's because if you have the hand-eye coordination to know where your hand is pointing when it's not straight in front of your face, you can paint the target with the laser, and so long as you're able to hold the gun steady through the squeeze of the trigger, maybe a challenge on this guy, you can land that shot with exposing only your hand and part of your arm. Now, is this something that you'd want to do in an intense firefight? I don't think so, because chances are if you're in an intense firefight, the bad guy already knows where you are. But it is certainly a tactical application of lasers that we don't see talked about much. Here's the other reason why I think lasers might be coming back, and that is some of the more well-off folks are getting into night vision. And with night vision comes use of lasers quite a bit. If you watch any of the well-sponsored or well-off channels that do lots of night vision content, you'll find they're using IR lasers quite a bit to aim. And so, I mean, they're doing it kind of out of necessity, but also to prevent having to be directly behind the gun. Because when you've got nods on, it's tough to get that familiar cheek rest and everything. It's a whole different aiming experience if you've never tried it. But my point is, they are using lasers kind of in the same way, and that same tactic is being applied there. It's just not necessarily being thought of as a defensive pistol application. I'm taking fire, I'm behind cover, I need to return fire, but I don't necessarily want to lean my whole body out and get my face behind the gun in order to do it. And that can be done with lasers. And I don't recall many other people talking about that. I can't be the first person to discover it, but there certainly aren't a whole lot of other things out there. So with the advancement of battery life that we've seen, with the advancement of micro and tiny electronics, I'm betting that this probably 6-year-old, maybe 7-year-old laser can't hold a light, to some of the modern units that are out there. And I know the government restricts the power that U.S. citizens can have because, you know, they have to be able to overthrow us and stuff, or resist overthrow. But I'm betting that there are better lasers available now than this old unit, and I bet a lot more could be done with it. The drawback I saw to lasers, and I heard this a lot when I was instructing, was, oh, don't get a laser, you'll become dependent on it. And I can certainly see that if a new shooter is expecting the laser to guide them. And the problem with that is if you're a new shooter, you may not have the hand-eye coordination yet and know your gun and your grip well enough yet to be able to point without really looking. And if you're searching for a red dot, especially under stress, you're gonna be losing time. But if you're comfortable with your gun, if you experience shooting it some already, I think a laser can really add a lot to it. Additionally, it's an option for imperfect lighting conditions, and yes, there are other solutions for that, but I think it could work there. I'm not Mr. Laser King. In fact, this is the first time a laser's been on the channel in several years, but I think the next step, if it is a rebirth or a revival type thing, is going to be the return of lasers. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on lasers and what your thoughts are on the next thing in the next hotness in guns. This little tiny thing has front slide serrations, which, I mean, like, it's about 1.5 inches difference from the rear slide serrations, but this was also when rear sights needed to be angled to not snag on things, versus now where this is the cool thing, where it's a big ledge that you can rack off of a rock or something if you ate MREs, your belts, or a table or whatnot if you never did. Let me know what your thoughts are. This is really just meant to get ideas going. I don't have the answers. I don't pretend to have the answers. I don't pretend to be an expert. I do have a lot of experience though, and that's where my ideas come from. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
To our big man supporter, GBGuns, and I do 2 level Andrew, P. Joseph, P. Randy, Peter Ray, Tom, Moises, S. Fast Eddie, all 2 in 1 by Brian, Lee Scott King. Thanks for the tip level, David B. Kratos, the God Slayer, Andrew B. Lee H. Christopher J. J. S. Bar, and H. Gripe Bond, Jeff O. Michael W. David G. Holt, Keith Tuga, Fred L. Robert B. Ohio Coupler, Steve A. Briscoe County, Joe Rich R. Red Sky, Waha, Ed Z. Beer 76, Uncle Muzzy, David F. keeping things on its level. Gary B, Lake Best, Danielle D, MC, Jake J, Adam J, Brad M, George H, Benny Left, Edward B, Adrian H, Cody W, Mark S, Such, Hunter Lewis R, Edith B, Gary C, J, Logan G, Brian K, Harvey MD, 2022A, Gil B, Ronzi, Court Mike, NC Techno, Convert 50, CJ Ronald, LW, Russ P, Marvin T, Alan B, Tabitha Janine, GBC 1986.